it's Erika of the Knit Kind podcast and Grapefruit and Gardenia Designs. I am back from Vermont Sheep and Wool. It is a rainy morning here. We had a spectacular weekend as far as the weather, the foliage, the people coming to the festival, the vendors, the designers, the food, the setting, Millapalooza on Friday night before. I feel like that was a month ago and it was only 3 days ago. So welcome to the Knit Kind podcast. I thought I'd do a really quick, I can't even call it a recap because I was in Designer Alley most of the time. I did wander a little bit and have a chance before the festival started on Saturday morning. I actually had a chance to talk to quite a few vendors, and on Sunday I stuck away from my booth a couple of times toward the end of the day, but it was a busy weekend and it was important we were in our booths to talk to all of you who came. And for those of you watching who are just curious about a little recap of Designer Alley, that I can give you. A recap of the show I can't give you, but I'm gonna give you a few other quick highlights. So I thought I'd jump in today because I know if I don't get it done this morning, it's just gonna get in the pile of things to get done. So this is even more informal and impromptu than usual. I'm gonna start with a few things that I did buy because you might be looking at these fabulous earrings. If you're not, let me draw your attention to them. Can you see these? They are spectacular if you like artisan jewelry, and guess what they are made of? Wool. So this is actually a woman I met this summer on Martha's Vineyard. She did the craft show that I talk about that I've run over there, Craft and Artisans Festival. And her name is Eleanor Stanwood. I'm gonna show you her card. It is artfelts.com. And it's artisanal jewelry. She has bangles, she has earrings, she has scarves, so accessories, not just jewelry, but really truly artisan work, and it's made out of wool, so it's wool felt fashion. And they were super cool, and I saw them this summer at the show that I run, and I was just so out of steam then that I didn't get to properly look. And then a couple people wore them when they came through Designer Alley, and I was like, I gotta have some of those, I think, before I leave the festival. So there were a few pairs left, and this was one of them, and I love the colors. It's like black, white, gray with like a little bit of purple in there. And this morning I thought, oh, I know what would go with that. It's my Earthshine. I knitted this a few years ago, and another reason it's kind of fitting that this goes together is I knit this with a lot of alpaca. So the color changing, I mean, it's not, dyed color changing, but like the natural gray and white and black that goes throughout is 100% alpaca. It is from, I think the Adirondack Yarn Company. I will link to it in the notes. But that is 100% alpaca. The yarn is called Espiral, I believe, and I think that it's still available. I don't know, I still see it in yarn shops. I'm not sure if they're still producing it or not, but they make a lot of beautiful yarns. And then I used this dark gray in between. So this is a 2-color. I made mine a little bit bigger, and because it's alpaca, it has a lot of drape to it. But it's kind of one of those shruggy type things. I actually like designing pieces that fit over your shoulders like this. And this was one of the early inspirations before I was a designer that, was one of the patterns I found when I was looking for things I wanted to wear. Anyhow, I'm saying a lot. I'm tired this morning. It's been a great, but a long weekend. And so the dark gray that's interspersed here is the Berroco Ultra Alpaca, which I think is 50% wool, 50% alpaca. So even though the alpaca in this has grown and has a lot of drape, it's a piece that works well with, and then it's interspersed, so it has a little bit more memory and structure from the wool and the Ultra Alpaca. So I just thought these were a fabulous pairing today. If you are looking, I don't know the next show that they're gonna be at, but you can certainly artfelts.com, contact Eleanor, and let her know that you saw my earrings on the Knit Kind podcast. Erika, she'll know me as Erika from Martha's Vineyard. I'm Erika from Martha's Vineyard and sometimes, and Erika from Greater Boston other times. So it's all the same me. I only I really didn't have time or the proper preparation to shop for yarn, but I did touch a lot of yarn. I met some great new vendors. I will probably highlight some photos in here, but I really didn't have a chance to do like a comprehensive look. So there were many beautiful vendors, some of whom I have seen before. And so I didn't dedicate a ton of time to them because I've already seen their work and it's beautiful and I kind of know what I want to go back to. And I did take the time to check out some new to me vendors because there's nothing like seeing and touching in person and having conversations. And so here is the program. The 36th annual Vermont Sheep and Wool Festival. And as you know, camelids were featured this year. And many alpaca, some llama. It was just, they were so fun, of course, to be around the animals at a fiber festival. That's part of what makes it more than a yarn shop, right? You actually get to meet shepherds, you get to see the animals, you get to see different breeds and have some education that's at a deeper level. I didn't get to do that because I was busy doing other things, but for attendees, if you're ever wondering, you know, do I want to attend a festival? Or there were so many non-knitters there, so you can go for the food. You can go for buying the things that are not yarn. You can take kids to them because they're always kid-friendly, where you get to see animals and demonstrations, sheep herding demonstrations, sheep shearing demonstrations. A lot of times there's areas you could pet the animals. You can get to see about like fiber and fleece and buy things for your home and your person that are made out of more sustainable and natural materials. And so you don't have to be a knitter or crocheter or a weaver or any type of fiber artist to go and appreciate these festivals. And usually the price point for a nice day, I mean, we can't control the weather, and knitters and crocheters and weavers will go for the yarn even if it's not nice weather. But when it's spectacular weather, especially, I mean, gosh, fall in Vermont, you can't get any better. So if you're wondering if you should go next year, I would definitely say go. And let's hope for good weather again. I stayed in White River Junction. It was a little bit less than a half an hour from my hotel out to Tunbridge. It was an easy drive. It was a beautiful drive. And so if you stay someplace like White River Junction, you can also do things right around New Hampshire and Vermont and really make a whole weekend of it. And I highly recommend it. And in here, you know, you can see schedule of events, the mission statement, which I think is important. So the mission of the Vermont Sheep and Wool Festival is to produce an annual event showcasing natural fibers and the fiber arts while educating and entertaining the public and providing a venue for small farms and fiber producers to promote their businesses. And so one of the things that was particularly nice about Designer Alley, we started it was the test for it this year. We really got to connect people with patterns, with us as humans designing those patterns, and answering some questions, and also hearing from a variety of knitters who are interested in farm yarn, and then pointing people towards small producers. And in some cases, having samples of our work, obviously at our booths, and also at some of those smaller producer booths. So sometimes, you know, you go and you don't know, how is a Romney going to knit up versus a Jacob or a Border Leicester, a Finn sheep, right? And this is where you can go. You can feel fabric. You can ask questions about stitch definition and felting and growth and softness of next to skin. And fiber festivals are such a great place for that. I did see a couple people with old school notebooks, which I loved. Of course, some of us take notes on our phone too, and I like to do a little bit of both, but it was just great to see people coming through with notebooks and taking notes on different things that they wanted to remember later or look more into. It had a nice, like, wholesome feel to it. Everybody was great. You know, I'm very appreciative of all of the positivity. When people came and said that they watched my podcast, that was so nice. And a lot of people said, you know, commented on the aspect of kindness, and that made me feel good. So thank you if you are one of those people who came. You probably just heard of bag zip open. I do put most of my fiber, I know it's icky, but I put it in a plastic bag when I first get home, because when you've got a yarn stash and you're trying to design with it, you gotta protect the yarn as well. So one of the things that I did pick up was this skein from Hands and Heart Farm. And this, if you have watched the episodes where I've shown the sweater with the yoke that I designed, inspired by hydrangea. My intention with this doesn't mean it's how it will end up, but my intention is to look at kind of 3 different flowers that have that similar shape of the way that it's like a very compact group of petals and light goes over it in a certain way, and how that might work with the design. And so I had imagined that design initially as the hydrangea. And then I also thought about dahlias, which is more toward the fall, and peonies, which is maybe more toward the very early summer. And I love all of those flowers for different reasons. I had hydrangea and peonies in my wedding bouquets, and dahlias I just think are so beautiful in the fall when everything, or late summer when everything kind of feels like it's fading, but those big dinner plate size, sometimes in the community gardens that we have, or smaller ones, and all the varieties and the colors. And I just love how these are like fall-ish colors but have those really rich tones to them. So that is one skein of yarn. Can't find words this morning. I did get a decent amount of sleep, but I am tired. And so that is one skein that I sort of had my eye on before I went. And there were some beautiful skeins for hydrangeas there. And there were some for roses too, but it just kind of depends what you're looking for. So that is the one skein of yarn that I bought. And then I did trade for some yarn. And I hope it is okay that I'm mentioning this, but many of you also have watched the episodes about my unbroken circle cowl and know that I made one for Paula Aarons in Ellie Mae's last clip. And I also made a tamarack hat to go with it. And I had the tamarack hat at my booth all weekend because it was really nice for me to be able to show my designs in yarn from the vendors who were at the show and point people back and forth. And again, talk about designing with breed specific yarn, where sometimes what exact sheep it is from, if not the flock, if not the farm, if not the fiber shed or cooperative or area. And so we could have those conversations by having that in my booth, as well as Paula having it in her booth. Well, she loved the hat, and I thought that she should have it. And so she was so appreciative. She made a little trade with me, and I feel very, very touched that she gifted or traded with me for a skein of Ellie Mae. And so this is going to become something I actually already had a thought this morning, because she very generously gave me 3 skeins that work well together. And I am kind of testing myself here. I suspect, I might be wrong, but I suspect that this is the I know this is the Ellie Mae. I suspect this is the Ensemble Romney. So that is from her Romneys combined, not one sheep, but the flock. And then Adult Jacob. And I think this one has just a slightly different feel. The spin and twist on all of them look very comparable, but look how this works together. Ooh la la. So I have some ideas, and I have a few things I want to get on my needles and get designing and knitting. And so this was new inspiration for me and just really, really exciting. And then the one other thing that I did get, I won't mention what farm it came from because they are not always for sale. But what I will do is kind of plug the idea in general. If you're thinking, again, either you're not a knitter or you want to go to one of these, but you don't need any more yarn, right? How many times do we hear that? Well, I don't know about you. Knitting socks, I'm okay with it. It takes a long time. I wasn't going to try to hold my foot up. This is probably really silly. I took a cool picture that I could use instead, but look, I did. I got some cranked socks that are then usually finished by hand, and they fit my feet perfectly. So if the person who I bought these from is watching, thank you for at the end of the festival letting me purchase a pair that you had out as a sample. I love them. They are on my feet today and they are perfect. And I think that's all I'm gonna admit. Well, you know what? Here's what else I'll throw out really quickly. Designer Alley. If you came to visit us, as I've already said, thank you. I loved seeing all of my designs together. We don't get a chance to reflect a lot on what we've done. And sometimes, you know, you'll ask yourself, oh, was that a good design? You know, I put it out there, I felt good about it, but you know, different patterns sell different amounts. People don't always put their projects in Ravelry, which again, my plea to some of you is, if you put your pictures in Ravelry, it's so helpful to the whole community. It's helpful to designers because we get feedback. And feedback is always a gift, especially if it's done in a nice way. If it's done as just pure criticism, sometimes it can be hard because we can't necessarily improve things from just pure criticism without any thoughts about how things could be different. But if you do it in a way that's like, I loved this pattern and here's what I tweaked, we're gonna learn from that too. Or, you know, I liked this pattern, but I found this difficult and a video tutorial would have been helpful. Or, you know, I liked it except this little bit of the shaping, you know, whatever it is. So if you do it in a nice way, it's really helpful. And when we can see pictures of how things fit on different bodies, it's also really, really helpful. And that was one of the things I loved so much is I saw my patterns and seeing them all together, it was fun and it was inspiring all over again. But the part that was the most inspiring was seeing people's reactions to them because we're small, right? Most of the designers that were there, we're small. We're not getting this constant interaction. We don't have 5,000 projects in Ravelry and have people, you know, giving different feedback. And so when people came to the booths and seeing their reactions about color combinations, stitches, asking, you know, yeah, but I'm not good enough to do this. I'm not a good enough knitter to do this. And we could say, well, actually, you know, this technique isn't as hard as it looks. And we could explain that a little bit and point them to tutorials online and point them to different things. Those conversations were, one, lovely, two, helpful. And then when occasionally someone would say, can I try something on? I saw some people try on my September Garden Cowl and they looked smashing. All genders, all gender identities. I saw people put this on and I thought, oh, this is really great. And I would love to see people share more pictures because my shoulder season, which is kind of a dickie, I've joked about it in the past, call it a split hem cowl if you want to call it a dickie. I had that conversation in my booth too. But you know, that's another one where all different genders would put that on, not at the show this weekend necessarily, but as soon as I had test knitters doing it. And I thought it really expanded my mind, right? I don't design for a particular gender, but sometimes when you're sizing things, if you're sizing things around chest size and different, you know, you have to take bodies into consideration. And so seeing a lot of my accessories being tried on and embraced by all different people was just really exciting to me. And I think fun for participants. So thank you to everybody who came in. And if you did want to try something on, thank you for asking and trying it on and sharing your feedback and being excited about it. That was really, really cool. And I have passed some information along, but in case you're watching this and you were in my booth and you couldn't remember a name, people also went nuts for So Happy Jane. Heather Best out of Idaho is the hand dyer who did that green color in my September Garden Cowl and on one of my Rosalind Vest samples. And people were like over the top about that color. So if you're watching it, I know some of you asked me, were my projects linked in Ravelry? And I said, yes, you can absolutely find it that way. Heather's doing a dyed to order. Today is Monday. If I get this posted, you might still be able to get into it. I know she posted it over the weekend and hopefully she'll leave it up for a little bit. So if you're looking for bulky yarn from her Scrumptious Bulky is a 3-ply. It is a merino. I believe it is a superwash. And that is the one that you saw in the vest sample that was there. The delightful DK. Actually, I think my green herb garden might have been the organic merino, but she has a superwash and an organic non-superwash for her DK. And so same thing, the herb garden people just loved it. So for those of you who are looking for that, I hope that was a good reminder. Trying to think if there's anything else in my booth people asked about. I think I left up the code through today and my vest code is up through tomorrow, October 8th for the vest. Today, Monday the 7th, is that Monday the 7th, for the Tunbridge cowl and Tamarack hat set. So promotions, look for them in the Ravelry description. They are there. And I will tag the other designers who are in Designer Alley. I think we're all looking forward to doing this again next year. Fingers crossed for schedules and weather and all the things, and we'll look at making it even better. But if you visited and you have suggestions about what we could do to make Designer Alley even better than it was this year, please let us know. We would love to hear from you. We'd love to hear your feedback on what you thought was great, what you thought we might add, anything like that. So thank you for watching. I will come back later with some updates. Maybe next time I will have my artist shawl finished. I'm not quite halfway through the bind off, but I am doing the full 7-stitch I-cord bind off. So that will be my next update from my knitting of something that's not my own pattern. And I will be finishing up another pattern soon and checking back in with y'all. So I hope that you have a great week, that you knit kindly, live kindly. And if this is your first time watching after the festival, thanks for tuning in. And I hope you'll go back and find some episodes that you like. Bye, everybody.